again, and welcome to Media War Stories, behind the scenes tales from the front lines of the media. I am your host, Tom Curley. How are you all today? And as we do, we talk about stuff that happened behind the scenes from our days in radio and television. And can't do it without my partner in crime here, Mr. Gary Armstrong, the veteran TV reporter from Boston. Gary, how the hell are you today?
I'm feeling like a veteran. Marilyn is feeling like a veteran. These are, I think we talked about this last week. These are what people, these wristbands are what a lot of people use for a carpal tunnel, meaning too much time on the computer. I've discovered these, thank you to Marilyn, because of the arthritis I have, which is shooting down both my shoulders into my hands, and the hands curl up. That's old guy stuff, so you don't expect any sympathy for that. But Marilyn has a strep throat, um,
That's not good.
and Duke, our furry kid, our doggy, Duke is not liking his food, so we're running around trying to figure out what can we do to please, to make Duke smile, to make Duke eat. Um,
Wow.
so these
Wow.
are really major, major issues. One of the things I know
Oh,
we
we.
have hard news to talk about, but when you were going into the intro of today's show, you went to take two. And for those who, everybody knows what that means. It made me think about, you know, how often when I was recording something, a piece in the field, how often I would need more than one take. Now, most reporters pride themselves on being able to get the stand up uh, on one or two takes. I had some days when, because someone was looking down at me and saying, "You're not as good as you think you are," that it went beyond two takes. And somewhere along the line, someone said, "I think we need to get a new cassette, or we need to get another roll of film, because this guy is now on his 13th take of what the bloody stand up. Why can't he talk straight?" And that's one of the downsides sometimes of thinking you can just wing things. And I always prided myself and I bragged about being able to just talk off the top of my head in the field. And that one day when it went to 15 takes, they said, "One more take or forget about it."
The number of times in my career I have had to look at somebody with a straight face going, "Oh, yeah, 57 takes is really quite normal. It happens all the time." Well, that was the thing with
Yeah,
Phyllis George. When they hired Phyllis George to be the anchor of the morning news, which was one of my favorite times ever, she was sort of a celebrity from CBS Sports. She was
right.
the reporter on the sidelines that would interview all the athletes. But what sports never told news was that she never did any of that live. All these
Right.
interviews were recorded, and it was not unusual for 10, 20, a
Right.
lot of takes.
I totally
So,
understand.
so, so what they did is, of course, they put her on a 2 hour live morning news show where you have to be live constantly, thinking on your feet. I
Yes.
always
Yes.
marveled every day, I always marveled that we did 2 hours of live television flawlessly without any rehearsal. And then when the show ended, we would take 40 minutes to do a 10-second promo. Because when it's on tape, when it's on tape, you do it, then
Oh
do it
golly.
again and again. And it's either two things. Um, it's either two things. It's either the whoever's doing the report keeps fucking it up, or somebody I think I want, or the person I want to do it again. I think I can do it better. And you're going, yeah, the
Right.
first take was just fine. That's
Oh,
not
that's
unusual
usually
at
the way it
all.
happens. And the more you try, the harder you try, the more mistakes you make. And so the freshness is long gone. And actually, the beauty of doing it live, and you know this, is if you do make a mistake, you because you have to, you can't stop and apologize. You just keep going. And it that just adds to the flavor, it adds to the authenticity of what you're doing. Anyway, that's the mundane part of what we're doing today. We were talking before the show about television coverage of both the Middle East and television coverage of the political race. And we're talking about how stations, local and networks, still focus on President 45, even though he's an ex president, and even though he's doing all of these things that make him a newsmaker. We were wondering why TV stations still focus on Trump and not on the present day political figures, the political wannabes. Why does that happen? Um, the late night talk shows, Richie, and we're fans of CBS and the Stephen Colbert Late Show. But what really burns my brisket is that not only do we see a lot of our former president, but we see all of the people on Fox News. These are people we try to avoid. We've tuned into this show for entertainment. And I guess entertainment for the people who do the late show, the producers and writers on the late show, uh, they think that Trump will bring more interest, I guess, than the other people in the political arena. Your thoughts?
One word. One word. Ratings.
Not polls,
Okay. Uh,
ratings.
Not polls. Oh no, we did ratings.
No, we kicked the hell out of polls last week, and the polls can just stay where they are now.
Stay where they are. No, it's ratings. I mean, eh, you know, he writes. All right. If you're a writer or a news person, um, I did a blog on this for Maryland's Serendipity a few years ago. Um, Basically, if you're a writer on the Late Show, you just come in, you look at Fox News, you look at the newspaper, and you go, I can go to lunch. The monologue's written. Uh,
Yeah, yeah,
with Biden, you have to actually write stuff, um, which is one of the as the subject that we're going to get into. Um, well, take Les Moonves, the most horrific thing I've ever heard an executive say, but it was true. This was back in 2016 when the he was getting incredible coverage, free because he was entertaining, and he said, "Well,
yeah,
Trump might not be bad for America, but he's great for CBS." And it was true. Unfortunately, all of that is one of the major things that got him elected. Now you can't look away. It's a train wreck. I mean, uh, one of the things that I wanted to talk about is, as we said, last week we mentioned that elections. The news is going to cover elections the same. It's a horse race. It has to be a horse race.
right,
It's a
right.
sporting competition. They speak in sport terms. It's neck and neck, too close to call, and
Yes,
they have to keep that. Otherwise, you're not going to tune in. You're not going to stay tuned in. Um, it's because you're on the edge of your seat, and we all know, as we talked
right.
about last week and weeks before, when you're anxious, when you're angry, you're going to watch more.
The average radio listener listens for 18 minutes. The average Howard Stern fan listens for, are you ready for this? An hour and 20 minutes.
How can that be?
Answer most commonly given, I want to see what he'll say next.
All right, okay, fine. But what about the people who hate Stern?
Good point. The average Stern hater listens for 2.5 hours a day.
Look, but if they hate him, why do they listen?
Most common answer, I want to see what he'll say next.
And they've done. I mean, it hasn't changed. And what's crazy is that it used to be, it wasn't that hard. Obama, McCain. All right, you can find a poll and you can talk. This guy did this guy did that.
Yeah,
Obama and Romney, Clinton and Dole, Clinton and who the hell did he run against? Oh, Bush Senior. No big deal. But
yeah,
now it's getting really hard. and I'm noticing
It
like
is.
MSNBC, some of the networks are starting to see it. I can all right. I imagine a meeting. Pick any one of the networks. Okay, what are we going to do today? Well, we got to keep this as a horse race. All right, what did Biden do? Well, he went out to Israel and he tried to patch things up. He met with people. What he went and he stood on a picket line and he went and he passed a bill. He went and he did this. Okay, what's Trump doing? Well, let's see. He insulted the judge. He threatened his clerk. He Oh yes, and on Veterans Day, he gave a speech right out of Mein Kampf where he called all leftists vermin and vowed to eradicate them and has said that he's going to declare martial law on his first day if he's reelected. At this point, all the producers go, "Oh, fuck. Okay, what do we got on Biden? All right, well, he's old. Yeah, we use that every day. He forgot his granddaughter's name. Okay, we'll go with that. And it's, he fell off a bike. No, now Trump is threatening to put all of his enemies in jail. Oh, great. What do we got on Biden? He tripped on a stair. Okay, we'll go with that. Wait, he's Trump. What else? Oh, Trump just announced he's going to round up all illegal immigrants and put them in concentration camps. Oh, fuck. They're twisting themselves into pretzels, and at some point, or what do? We go, hey, a poll just came out.
Yeah, remember last week you were talking about uh, meetings, the meetings that are held about the newscast, and obviously you were talking about the network, and in my mind, I was thinking about the locals, even though I spent some time at the network, ABC. And you mentioned at the network they'll look at the New York Times, the Washington Post, the London Times, etc. And I remembered I was guilty of doing this. They would look at the Boston Globe, which I guess could, when you look at the dailies that we had and still have, the Boston Globe was considered to be the classier newspaper. The Boston Herald was more of a tabloid and still is. And you knew when you went into the meeting as a reporter or producer that the news director would say, well, what stories are we going to do? And we need to enterprise stories. And you threw out A, B, C, and D of stories you thought were worthy of being covered. And you get this look of, no, that's not interesting. What I knew at some point is that we were supposed to cover stories that were in the Boston Herald, the tabloid stories. So what I got used to doing, and Marilyn vividly can testify to this, is the night before I would get the early editions of both the Globe and the Herald. I would clip out stories about the gang wars and neighborhood problems and all the things that, if it bleeds, it leads kind of stories. I'd clip them out, put them in one manila folder, then clip out the more substantive stories about legislative issues, about social issues, and I'd put them in another folder. And I take it into the meeting, and I knew I was all set. I would begin with the stories I thought had more substance that I had stolen from the Globe, and I'd look at the news director, and you'd get this, that's really boring stuff. And then you'd pull out a story about a panda who ran amok and scared wildcats from the trees, and you just mentioned that, and I'm throwing that in as a joke, of course. But when you threw that stupid story in about pandas scaring wildcats, the news director's eyes would open up and say, "That's it. That's it. We're going not only are we going to lead with that, but we're going to put a team of reporters on that." And once the word team of reporters came out, everybody got excited because that meant everybody was going to be on the air. And then it was had to be decided, well, who would be the lead reporter, who would do the color, who would do the black perspective, the Latino perspective, and before the meeting ended, no one discussed what was really happening that particular day. So not only are you stealing from the newspapers, which TV news directors always denied, not only are you stealing from the newspapers, but you're doing yesterday's news with a faint dabbing of today's events. That happened 30
Yeah,
or 40 or 50 years ago, and I gotta tell you, it's still
yeah.
happening.
You can never go wrong with a water skiing squirrel. Works every time.
Oh, wow. I remember, Tom, being in the middle of covering one of those stories that had been in the newspapers the night before. Let's say, it was a murder or whatever it was. And then obviously the police would be involved in the investigation. So the next day, as we went in to make it a fresh story, the only thing that would be fresh would be what would be happening that day in terms of the investigation. More often than not, all the law enforcement people could tell us is this is what happened last night. We're working on it. We can't tell you any more. And of course, because you had to be a bulldog, you would say, tell us more. And of course, they would say, we can't tell you anymore. And then you would follow it up with, why can't you tell me more? What's wrong? Is there corruption involved? No, we can't. Why can't you tell us this? And what was extracted from that news conference or interview is not what they said about here's what happened last night, which was still decent information the day after. What you were told to extract was the police backing off, the police not giving you all the information. That would be the thrust of the story. Still happens today?
Yeah. Well, so I have you've brought up two stories that I have to tell. The first one, getting back to water skiing squirrels. On Up to the Minute, we were really fond of demolition videos. When they bring down a building, like in Las
Yeah,
Vegas.
yeah.
Okay, we loved them. We used to call them demolition du jour. If we could find one, we would put one on. We would put one on every night. So
Well, they're
this
cool.
is
Yeah.
back. They're very cool. So, and this is
Yeah.
a true story. So, uh, the federal building, the Murrow building, the building that Timothy McVeigh, the Oklahoma City bomber, blew up.
Hmm.
Well, they finally were going to demolish the building, okay, because it was unfixable. So it was going to happen at like 8 in the morning. Now, technically, we were on the air till I think 9 o'clock. We would be out in like Hawaii and Guam. So we wanted to cover it. Now, normally, what we would do is we would tape it, and then we would sync up with the playback that was on the network. The network would come to us, and we would insert the stuff that we pre-recorded. But
Right.
no, the producer, he wanted to do it live. Okay?
Oh
And
my
the
God.
my partner and I, so he wanted to do it live. So here was the setup. They had three cameras, all right? There was a camera on the ground that was going to see the explosion and was going to be destroyed. Okay? You would see the debris coming at it, and then there was a camera way up on a building looking down at the whole thing.
Right.
And then there was a third camera with the correspondent. Okay? So we rehearsed, me and my partner, Ray Chisty. So we rehearsed over and over again. We would go camera one, and when it's destroyed, camera two. When it's finished, go to the correspondent. 1, 2, 3, boom. So the way it worked is they would put out a horn. They would toot a horn, and one blast, two blasts was for the 2 minute warning. Okay, and then after the 2 minutes, there would be the one blast, and the building would go down. So
Right.
we weren't going to go live. We were synced up. We weren't going to go live. We weren't going to have production control take us until the 1 minute warning. Okay? So we're all ready. We're set. We've got it set. We've rehearsed this for hours. And they did the 2 minute warning. Now here's the thing. I don't know. Somebody got their connections crossed or their signals crossed. But when they did the 2-minute warning, they blew the building. All right. Now, here's the thing that
Ah,
I have watched hundreds of building demolitions, and what I never realized, and neither has anybody else, is that they are in slow motion. Right? Do you know
right,
in real time
right.
how long it takes for a building to collapse? Bang! That's how long it
Yes,
takes. So
yes,
you hear the 2-minute warning, you hear this bang, whoosh, right? And we're just sitting there like,
yes.
what? So we turned to the
What happened?
producer and go, so did we roll on that? So that's what. So that's that was that.
Well, while you're talking about that, and I don't know how your network reporters did, they must have done fairly well. I'm just guessing. Uh, Locally, we would get from the anchor after they showed the slowed down building demolition. The question usually was, "So what was it like?" Huh? What was it like? Oh, and let me go off on a set. They would determine, and I thought they were just picking on me. You know how loud those things are. They're incredibly loud. So I actually was in one of the meetings when they were saying, well, we'll put Armstrong in that because he's hard of hearing and it'll be less of an impact on him than on our reporters who have good hearing. He has bad hearing, so let's send him to cover the story. But when the question came down, so what was it like? What could you say except, wow, that was really incredible. I mean, just the scope of it and the impact and seeing all of that material, brick and mortar, etc. And yet the news directors weren't happy because the description of what happened didn't aptly give you the same feeling as just watching the video of the demolition. You, what I'm
Yeah.
saying is there are times when the reporter simply cannot, with words, top what you've just seen visually. It's just impossible
Oh,
unless you're
absolutely,
giving a pack of
absolutely.
lies.
There was a video
And
there
Duke
was
is
a
just
video I
agreeing with me
saw.
off camera.
Agreeing with you. There's a video I saw a long time ago. I wish I could find it. Um, it was these two guys, and their their timing had to be perfect. All right, and what they did is there was a big like a oil tanker that was about to be
Right.
launched. It was in dry dock and it was about to be launched, and they set up a camera uh, like on a lift where you could see the boat behind them, and the reporter was interviewing the uh, the the foreman, the construction foreman, and they're going and they had to time it perfectly. They had to know exactly when this thing was going to be launched, and so the reporter and the guy's going, well, we're almost done, but there's a lot of work left to do. We're way, way over
Yes.
schedule. We're way, way over budget. And as he's talking, the ship starts to launch, right? And he goes, oh, no, 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 we're not. This is not ready. We are not ready. And it was hilarious. All right, I have a question. Have you ever, while you were doing a tape, started to get the giggles and
Oh yeah.
you couldn't
Oh yeah.
you couldn't get
And you know, the reporter who says they can just stop on the dime is not telling the truth. Once you start giggling, it's over. It's really over
it's
because it
over.
not only are you
You
giggling and that's transmitted on camera, but everyone else around you is giggling. So
exactly.
it's really
We
down the
had
drain.
we had one time, I think it was Nanette Hansen. She got the giggles and we must have done 20 takes. And she almost got through one take. And of course, I I talked into her ear and made a joke, and of course she cracked up. Um, we actually had to cancel the segment. We didn't air the piece because we just ran out of time and we just had to move on. And I remember it was something, it was a soundbite of the Surgeon General, who happened at the time to be a woman. And she had a very funny
Okay.
voice, and she was talking about, she released some Surgeon General report about the effects of masturbation. And she said, masturbation. Well, for some reason, every time the anchor had to say masturbation, she just cracked up. And it just got funny. And that's happened, oh my God, so often. Because it just, it just, as you're reading, the part of your brain is going, don't laugh, don't laugh, don't laugh.
Right.
And, they laugh. There's a, there's a classic outtake. And if I can find it, I'll put it on the air. It's Paul Harvey. All right, Paul Harvey was a famous radio announcer, a newsman, and he did a thing. It was the rest of the story.
Oh, did you see today's Wall Street Journal trying to cheer itself up? Reports on the lady who was shopping for a frilly nightgown as a birthday present for her pet poodle. They didn't have any, but the store clerk said, if you'll measure the dog, we'll have one made. And the lady said, oh, I couldn't do that. I want it to be a surprise. Page 2. One of the most spectacular kinds of automobile accidents is the one in which the car not only gets banged up, but bursts into flames. What makes it really horrible is the idea that a driver and his passengers stunned by the accident may be trapped inside the burning car. The National Safety Council says that, fortunately for most of us, this type of spectacular spice-up is very rare. Only one driver... Good night, Mother.
And he can't stop laughing. It is hilarious.
It is, and what's really difficult is when you're in that moment and you're trying to, let's say you're near the end of your piece, your live piece, and you feel the giggles building up, and you only have so much time to finish, and it's like a sneeze. That's another thing. What do you do when you have to sneeze and you're doing a live shot? Um, the first couple of times, I just tried to stifle the sneeze. And I believe what happened, at least on one occasion, was I got down to, let's make up a town, uh, live in Brockton, Massachusetts. I'm Gary. Uh, 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 uh. And it just came out, and you could hear the giggles and laughter. And I could hear them giggling in through my IFB. Everyone was laughing. And some people, you could hear phony sneezes. There is no
Oh,
respect
absolutely.
for that.
No respect. But but we love it when it happens. Or even worse. And I feel bad when this happens for any anchor. They get that thing in your throat where you're gonna cough, and it's a tickle,
Yeah.
and you can't get rid of it,
Yes.
and you cough, and you're trying to talk, but your voice is gone, and you keep
Right.
apologizing. Oh, we feel so terrible. Or also when you don't know that you're on the air. That's the other thing. So many careers have been ruined by somebody not realizing that their mic is on. I'm trying to. Oh God, I think it was Jane Wallace. She was a correspondent. Oh, wonderful, wonderful person. Uh, and she was doing some segment talking about some dumb thing. Uh, I don't know, a cooking show or something, and they were short. They were short, and she threw the commercial. All right, and
Right.
I killed her mic, and suddenly said, "Oh my God, we got we 30 seconds. We still need 30 seconds," and they said, open her mic," and I went, "She doesn't know she's on the air. Open her mic," and I went, "Okay." And as I opened her mic, she said, I just couldn't talk anymore about that goddamn stupid whatever she was talking about. And everybody goes, "Close her mic, close her mic, close her mic." And I'm going, I told you she doesn't know she's on the
Right.
air. you have to make her aware of that before you open the mic. But
Yeah.
yes, hilarity ensued.
That
Well, anyway, we did it again.
that
We
happened to
ran
me,
over.
I think, only once. And I think I told you part of the story, but they cut back to me with a similar scenario where they had some extra time that they didn't know what to do with. So I could hear in the IFB, that was one plus. I could hear them saying, let's go back to him in the field. So it came back to me, and we were in the middle of sharing a joke, we being myself and my crew. And I picked it up and I said, we can always use extra time in the field. And as I meant to say in the report, yada, 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 we're live in, and then it happened. I just blanked out. I couldn't remember where we were. So you're supposed to say, we're live in Boston. We got down to, we're live in, and Tom, all I could do was say to my crew, where the hell are we? Forgetting that we were still live on the air. And you can hear through the IFB, you're in Boston, asshole. We're live in Boston.
Yes. Well, on that note, E flat. That's it. We've done it again. We have run out of time. Didn't get to everything we wanted to. So what else is new? Let's get to the plugs as fast as we can. Serendipity Seeking Intelligent Life on Earth, Marilyn's blog. It's wonderful. Go and read it. Duke likes it. A half-hour radio show, the cult hit from the 80s, is still there. Voicescapes Audio Theater, my theater group for the best in audio, comedy, and drama. And my sister podcast, Get Off My Lawn. I just finished a new one entitled Nazis Are Bad. You'll be sure to check it out. So anyway, Gary, that's it for this episode. All I can say is see you next week.
Hallelujah.